I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We seemed good, not perfect, but solid. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I trusted her. She was the kind of woman who always made it seem like everything was under control, even when I suspected otherwise. Looking back, I guess I just didn't want to see the signs. At first, it was small stuff, little things. She started coming home late more often, and when I asked her about it, she'd brush it off. "Work stuff," she'd say, rolling her eyes like I was an idiot for doubting her. But her phone started ringing in the middle of the night, and her texts began to seem more secretive. She'd hide her phone in her purse whenever I entered a room, and her excuses about her work friends just didn't add up. I even caught her deleting messages once. That's when I started feeling this gnawing suspicion, like I was missing something big. She's always been a bit bitchy, sharp-tongued, quick to throw out a sarcastic remark. But lately, her attitude had turned into full-blown nastiness. She'd snap at me for no good reason, call me stupid when I'd ask about her late nights. I didn't press too hard at first, figuring maybe she was stressed or just tired. But then I caught her lying. Not just little lies, massive ones. Like the time I found her phone receipts from a hotel in the city when she told me she was working late at the office. The hotel was 20 miles away, and I knew she wasn't the type to stay in a hotel for work. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started watching her more closely. She'd leave her phone around, but I noticed she'd always make sure it was locked or hidden. And her behavior, she'd get defensive if I tried to look at her phone like I was the bad guy. It was all so obvious, but I couldn't believe it. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and a deep loneliness creeping in. I was beginning to realize she was hiding something major from me, something I didn't want to believe. Then came the day I decided to dig deeper. I started checking her social media, her call logs, even her emails. Nothing concrete at first, just gut feelings, until I noticed something strange. Her conversations with a certain number, a number I didn't recognize. It was like a string of code, short messages, quick replies, always in the middle of the day. I started saving the texts, trying to piece together what was happening. And that's when I saw the words that shattered whatever little hope I had left. A guy named Steve talking about meeting up, about sneaking away, about sex. Just those words, they hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, the woman I trusted, was cheating on me with some guy she called her friend. And it wasn't just one or two texts. It was a whole string of them every other day. I felt sick. My stomach turned, my hands trembled. I had to see her. I had to hear her lie to my face because I knew she would. And sure enough, when I confronted her with the evidence, she didn't even blink. Instead, she looked at me with that same bitchy smirk and said, "You're overreacting, Mike. It's nothing. Just some stupid chat, you're paranoid." That's when I knew she'd been lying all along. I could see her trying to spin her version, trying to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't stupid. I knew the truth. She was screwing around with that guy Steve during witness preparation sessions for her court cases. Those times she'd disappear for hours, the times she'd come back with that smug look on her face. I had the security footage from the courthouse, too. It showed her entering empty conference rooms with him like they had some secret rendezvous while I was at work. It hit me hard. I'd been played for a fool. All those late nights, all those fake apologies, the tears she'd cry about being stressed, all of it was just her cover. I felt rage boil up inside me, but it was mixed with heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this after everything? I'd given her my trust, my love, my life. And she threw it all away for some guy who, from what I could tell, was just a hookup for her. It was the kind of betrayal that twists your insides, makes you question everything you ever believed in. I knew I had to decide what to do next. But right then, all I could do was sit there, staring at the evidence, trying to process how a woman I loved could turn into such a bitch. It was like my whole world was crashing down around me, and I wasn't even sure I wanted to stay in this wreckage. After I saw everything, I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was racing, trying to grasp how deep her lies went. The worst part was feeling this sick mixture of betrayal and anger, like I was drowning in it. I kept thinking about her, Lisa, my wife, the woman I had trusted with everything. How she could lie so effortlessly, betray me for some guy she met during witness preparation sessions in the courthouse. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. The next morning, I woke up early, still exhausted, but I knew what I had to do. I had to confront her again, get some sort of explanation, though I already knew there wouldn't be one that made sense. I wanted her to admit it, to see the guilt in her eyes, even if I already had the evidence. I didn't want to just accuse her blindly. I needed to hear her lie, her deny, her try to cover her tracks one more time. When she woke up, I asked her to sit down. Her face was already defensive, like she sensed something was coming. I laid out everything I found, the messages, the hotel receipts, the courthouse footage. Her eyes flicked rapidly, her lips pressed into a tight line. And then she started her usual bullshit. "Mike, you're overreacting. This is nothing. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I swear I don't know what you're talking about." I just looked at her and said, "Don't lie to me, Lisa. I saw the text. I saw the hotel receipts. I saw the footage. You've been cheating on me with Steve, haven't you?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was some idiot who couldn't see the obvious. "You've got no proof. You're just jealous and paranoid. Maybe I've been talking to some friends. Maybe I've been stressed. That's all it is. You're imagining things, Mike." That's when I felt a surge of pure rage. How could she sit there and deny it so blatantly? After all the late nights, the secret meetings, the sneaky text messages, she was still lying. I saw her trying to minimize it, dismiss it like it was nothing. It was infuriating. I wanted to shake her, scream at her, tell her how much she hurt me. But instead I stayed calm, well, as calm as I could be, trying to keep my composure. Inside I was boiling with anger and heartbreak. I told her she was done. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after this. I told her she had to leave, that I couldn't be with someone who so blatantly betrayed me. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk again, said, "Fine, whatever. Do what you want. I'm tired of your accusations." She grabbed her purse, stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. That moment I felt a strange mixture of relief and devastation. Relief that I finally knew the truth, but devastated because the woman I loved, the woman I married, had turned into such a liar. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug look she gave me when she lied. I kept thinking about how I was going to move forward. I considered fighting for her, begging her to tell me the truth, to come clean. But deep down, I knew it was over. Trust was shattered and I couldn't fix that. Not anymore. Not with someone who could lie so easily, who could screw around with a guy like Steve behind my back while pretending everything was fine. I also started digging more into her phone, her emails, trying to get a clearer picture of how long this had been going on. I found more messages, more conversations with Steve, more evidence that she'd been cheating on me for months. It was like a betrayal on top of betrayal. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see it coming. But honestly, I was so blinded by love, by hope that she'd change, that I ignored all the warning signs. One thing's for sure, the feeling of being duped was overwhelming. I kept replaying the moment I found the messages, how those words, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Don't forget to lock the door," hit me like a punch in the stomach. It was a gut punch, and it made me question everything about my marriage, about her character, about trust itself. How could someone I shared my life with turn into this cold, manipulative liar? It was like she had been living a double life, and I was the last to know. The thing that stung the most was her attitude, so bitchy, so dismissive, like I was just some obstacle in her way. She didn't care about what I felt, what I'd built with her. She just wanted her own secret world, her affair, her little escape with Steve. That realization made me feel sick. It was like I had been played for a fool, but more than that, I felt stupid for ever trusting her. Now I was left with a choice. Do I stay and try to fix this, or do I cut my losses and walk away? I wasn't sure. All I knew was I needed time to think, to get my head straight. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her keep lying to me. The truth was out, and I was done pretending everything was okay. After she left that morning, I stayed in the house for a while, just staring at the empty doorway where she had stormed out. My mind was spinning. Part of me wanted to call her, yell at her, demand answers. But I knew that wouldn't get me anywhere. She'd just lie again, deny everything until I was too exhausted to argue. I felt this deep, aching emptiness inside, like my entire world had collapsed under the weight of her lies. I decided I couldn't sit around waiting for her to come back or for her to finally admit the truth. I had to do something, anything, to get a grip on the situation. So I started making calls, talking to a lawyer about my rights, trying to figure out what my next steps could be. I also reached out to a few friends for support, people I knew wouldn't sugarcoat things. They told me I needed to get a divorce, that Lisa was a lying, cheating bitch and I deserved better. But even hearing that didn't make it any easier. It just made everything feel more real, more final. My gut told me I should get some proof of her cheating, even beyond the texts and hotel receipts. I wanted to catch her in the act to prove she was still sneaking around. So I set up some discreet surveillance, hidden cameras in the house, tracking her movements when I knew she'd be out. I didn't want to be a stalker, but I also knew I needed visual confirmation to really put an end to her lies once and for all. Over the next few days, I kept my eyes peeled. And then it happened. I saw her leaving a hotel again, this time with her purse, her hair done up, the whole 9 yards. She got into a car with Steve, smiled like she was on top of the world. I felt a cold rage take over. This wasn't just a mistake. She was actively lying and screwing around behind my back, right in front of me. I was furious, but I also felt this crushing sadness. I loved her once, and now it was like loving a stranger. That night, I waited until she was out. I sneaked into her phone and found even more messages, texts where she was planning sneaky meetings, sex talk, flirtatious nonsense. Every message reinforced how far gone she was. I felt like I was living in some awful nightmare, like I'd been betrayed by the person I trusted most in the world. How could she do this? How could she sit there and lie so effortlessly, so bitchily? The next day, I had my plan. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time with everything I had. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I wanted her to know I knew everything. Her lies, her secret meetings, her sneaking around, her cheating. I was done being the fool in this story. I was tired of feeling like I was just some backup option while she chased her thrills with Steve. When she came back that evening, I sat her down and laid out all the evidence. I told her I knew about the hotel, the texts, the meetings, that I'd been watching her for days. Her reaction was stunning. Her eyes flicked with that mean little smirk again, like she thought she was clever. She told me I was crazy, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. She called me insecure, said I was imagining things, that she was only with Steve for sex, like that made everything okay. I couldn't take her bullshit anymore. I told her she was a liar, that she'd been cheating on me for months and I was done. I told her to pack her stuff and leave. She sneered, told me I was possessive and paranoid, that I'd regret this. But I didn't care. I felt this strange mix of relief and despair. I'd finally confronted her, finally seen her for what she really was. I'd been played, manipulated, used by someone I thought loved me. Watching her pack her bags, I felt an intense sadness I couldn't quite shake. I loved her, or I did once. But now I saw her for the cold, bitchy cheat she'd become. The betrayal cut deep. I realized I was better off without her, but part of me still mourned what we lost. I wondered how I'd pick up the pieces, how I'd trust again after this. All I knew was, in that moment, I was done. Done with the lies, the secrets, the betrayal, and I'd never let her do this to me again. The night she moved out, I felt like I was walking through a fog. Her leaving didn't bring relief the way I thought it would. Instead, a strange emptiness settled over me, like I'd lost a part of myself. For years, I'd built a life with Lisa, believed in the dream we shared. And now that dream was shattered, replaced by this ugly truth I couldn't ignore. I kept thinking about all those moments I missed, signs I brushed off, the little things I thought were just her mood swings or stress. If I'd known, maybe I could have prevented this. Maybe I could have stopped her from cheating, from lying, from betraying everything we had. But it was too late now. She was gone, and I was left with a mess I didn't know how to clean up. The house was eerily silent, no more her bitchy comments or sarcastic jokes, just an empty space where she used to be. I spent the first few days in a daze, trying to keep myself together, throwing myself into work, trying to distract my mind. But no matter how busy I kept, the ache of betrayal lingered. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sneer, her dismissive attitude. I kept replaying her words, her lies, her manipulations. How she'd convinced herself she was right, justified her actions. I also started feeling a burning rage. How she could betray me so easily, so callously. That bitchy smirk she kept wearing like she was proud of her lies. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been just another game for her, another fool to be used and discarded. I hated that she'd made me feel so stupid, so naive. And I hated even more that I had loved her so much, only to find out she'd been screwing around with Steve right in front of me. I'd seen the courthouse footage, the hotel receipts, the texts. But the worst part, that I'd ignored all the signs because I was too in love to see the truth. I decided I needed concrete proof, something to really solidify what I already knew. So I started digging even deeper into her digital life. I hacked her email, checked her social media accounts again, anything that might give me a clearer picture. And what I found was worse than I imagined. More messages with Steve, more plans to meet, more sex talk. It was non-stop. She was actively lying, actively sneaking around. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all of this, how I'd been so blind. Then again, I realized I'd been blinded by love, by hope that she'd change, that she'd come clean. One thing hit me hard, the fact that she didn't even seem sorry. Instead, she was bitchy, dismissive, like I was just a minor inconvenience in her life. That made my stomach churn. I saw her attitude and understood she didn't care about me anymore, not really. She moved on to her secret affair, and I was just collateral damage. That realization made me feel a mix of disgust and heartbreak. How could she be so cold, so manipulative? I also started planning my revenge, not that I wanted to hurt her physically, but I needed her to feel the pain of what she'd done. I wanted her to understand that she'd pushed me to the edge. So I contacted a private investigator, got some more solid evidence of her ongoing affair. I wanted to confront her with everything I had, but I also wanted her to see that I was serious about ending this. I decided that once I had enough proof, I'd give her one final chance to come clean, then I'd make my move. Meanwhile, I kept trying to piece together what our life was supposed to be. I remembered the good times, the trips we took, the nights we spent talking and laughing. It all felt like a distant memory now. I realized I'd been clinging onto something that was never real. She had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. Every time she snapped at me, every late night she claimed was work. She was really with Steve. How do you deal with that kind of betrayal? How do you look at someone you loved and see the cold liar they've become? One day, I decided I wouldn't wait anymore. I was done playing her game. I wanted her to know I was serious about moving on. I sent her a message telling her I had all the evidence I needed, that I was filing for divorce, that I didn't want anything from her, just to be done with the lies and betrayal. I don't think she expected me to be this cold, this decisive. She thought she could keep sneaking around, lying, and I'd never find out. But I did, and now she was the one who was going to pay. That night I sat alone in the house, feeling more alone than I ever had. The betrayal was like a weight on my chest. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind, so trusting. And as much as I wanted to hate her, a part of me still mourned. I mourned the woman I thought I knew, the marriage I thought we had. But I knew I had no choice but to let her go. The truth was out now, and I couldn't pretend anymore. It was over, and I had to find a way to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. The days that followed were some of the darkest I've ever experienced. I had finally confronted her, laid out the evidence, and told her it was over. But knowing it was over in theory didn't make the pain any easier. I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly in the gut. Every time I thought about her, I saw that bitchy smirk, heard her lies, and remembered the way she dismissed everything I said. It was like she had the power to turn everything into a joke, to make me feel like I was the crazy one for suspecting her. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head, her sneaky meetings, the secret texts, the courthouse footage. How she'd act like I was paranoid or insecure when I'd find proof. How she'd deny everything, then turn around and blame me for being controlling or jealous. I kept telling myself I should have seen it sooner, should have caught her red-handed earlier. But honestly, even with all the evidence, part of me couldn't believe she'd be so cold and manipulative. I thought I knew her. Turns out I didn't know her at all. I started leaning on my friends more, talking to them about everything. They told me I deserved better, that I shouldn't let her get away with this. But that didn't help all the time. I still felt this gnawing ache, like I'd lost a part of myself I'd never get back. I was angry, yes, furious even. But underneath all that, I was just really sad. Sad that I'd trusted her so blindly and she'd played me like a fool. That she'd lied so effortlessly, lied about everything, her feelings, her fidelity, her whole life. It made me question what was real and what was a lie. I also found myself spiraling into a kind of obsession, trying to understand why she did it. Was she just bored? Was I not enough? Or was she always like this, hiding this bitchy, manipulative side? I kept asking myself if I missed the signs, if I could have done something different. The truth was, I didn't have an answer. I only knew she had turned into someone I didn't recognize, someone who could cheat, lie, and dismiss me so callously. It was a betrayal that cut so deep I felt like I was bleeding inside. But I also knew I had to do something about it. I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. So I hired a divorce attorney, prepared myself for the inevitable. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be her fool anymore, that I was serious about ending this. I gathered all the evidence I had, made copies of everything. I wanted to make sure she understood I was done with her lies, her games, her manipulations. I made a plan to confront her one last time, to give her a chance to come clean, then I'd make the final move. On the day I planned to serve her the divorce papers, I felt nothing but a strange sense of numbness. I wasn't sure if I was relieved or devastated, maybe a little of both. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, someone I now despised. I kept thinking about the life we'd built, the future I'd imagined, and how it had all been shattered by her selfishness and bitchy attitude. I wanted to scream at her, wanted to tell her how much she'd hurt me. But I also knew that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about finally freeing myself from the lies and betrayal. I realized I had to accept that trusting her again was pointless. She had shown her true colors, and those colors weren't pretty. I had to choose myself now, to rebuild, to move on, to find someone who wouldn't lie and cheat behind my back. Someone who wouldn't treat me like I was just some obstacle in her way. I'm not going to pretend I've got it all figured out. I still feel the ache, the anger, the sadness, but I also feel a sense of clarity. This experience has taught me that trust is fragile, and when it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. I learned that sometimes you have to cut your losses and walk away, even if it hurts like hell. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm finally starting to heal piece by piece. And one day, I hope I'll look back and realize I'm stronger now than I ever thought I could be. Now looking back, I realize just how much this whole experience has changed me. At first, I was consumed by anger. How could she do this? How could someone I loved, someone I shared my life with, turn into such a cold, manipulative bitch? It felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. I was hurt, betrayed, humiliated. I thought I was stronger than that kind of pain, but I was. Not at first. It's a slow process, healing from something like this. Eventually, I started to see things differently. I learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. I learned that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away before it destroys you completely. It's about self-respect, about knowing your worth when someone else tries to drag you through the mud. I won't say I'm fully healed, far from it, but I am getting there. I've moved out, filed for divorce, and started rebuilding my life. The hardest part was facing the fact that the woman I thought I knew was just a facade, a lie I had believed for too long. But now I see clearly. I see her for what she truly was, someone selfish, manipulative, and bitchy enough to cheat with a man she called her friend during court witness preparation sessions. What I've learned from all this is simple but powerful. Never ignore the signs. Trust your gut. And if someone shows you who they are, believe them. Don't make excuses for their lies or their betrayal, because eventually the truth comes out. And when it does, it's either going to set you free or destroy you. I chose to be free. So to anyone out there going through something similar, I'll say this. Don't wait too long to face the truth. Get your evidence, confront what you need to, and don't be afraid to walk away. Because your happiness, your dignity, and your self-respect are worth more than any lie, any betrayal. I've finally learned that lesson the hard way. And honestly, I feel a little stronger for it. Still hurt, yeah, but also more alive. More ready to start over. And that's enough for me.